Creative Babble.
Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. Thanks for being flexible.
Not a problem at all.
David McClam first met LaDonna Humphrey about 2 years ago when she was a guest on his podcast, True Crime Authors and Extraordinary People.
She came on the show, and we pretty much hit it off from that point.
David and LaDonna eventually launched the Extinguished podcast together. But maybe David doesn't realize the things that people are saying about his co-host. I'm not sure if you're even familiar with some of the allegations that are being made against her.
I'm familiar with everything. I've actually dug into everything, so there's nothing I don't know.
David McClam is an adamant supporter of LaDonna Humphrey. Despite everything I've reported, he claims that he's read all the evidence that I have, and he still stands by her side. David told me that he's investigated the death fetish community, and he has even gone as far as going toe-to-toe with some of these death fetishers himself. He is almost certain that LaDonna is not Fetish Master. Why is he so convinced? Because he says that the Fetish Master account was created on November 8th, 2022, and Alicia was staying with LaDonna in LaDonna's house. This was the time period when Alicia and LaDonna were going on book signings and going to London to speak at CrimeCon. He said LaDonna spoke at CrimeCon that year and was the most liked speaker. During our call, David warned that LaDonna Humphrey is suicidal, and if anything happens to his friend, everyone who speaks out against her will be held accountable. After my call with LaDonna, she sent me a list of people she wanted me to talk to. One of those was Jana Hines, who you heard from in the previous episode. If you recall, Jana Hines is Anthony Christopher's former speech pathologist, who was fired for her mishandling of Medicaid records. I asked Jana Hines to talk to me about her friend LaDonna Humphrey. How do you think that most people, if you subtract all these victims that I've been talking to, how do you think most people would perceive her?
Just a strong woman who's trying to seek justice for Melissa Witt. She's worked with a lot of other people on other cases. I mean, everything she does is for the good of others. She just had a great reputation for being an advocate.
Yeah.
She's a good mom. She works tirelessly for people. And I think maybe the only thing is that she doesn't take care of herself.
I asked Jana to play devil's advocate. Could LaDonna be capable of this level of harassment?
I don't know. I feel like these questions are pretty leading, and I don't know if I trust what you're asking because...
I just want to get a better understanding of her because, we talked about how she's done a lot of good for a lot of women and her work with the Melissa Witt case. I just want to get a better understanding of who she is.
LaDonna she'll just work until she has nothing left to give. And I worry about her own well-being sometimes because of all the things she's doing. She's a dear friend.
Today, we are going to continue my conversation with LaDonna Humphrey. And we're going to hear more from her supporters. I'm Javier Leiva, and this is Pretend. Stories about real people pretending to be someone else. It's important to note that I called LaDonna Humphrey early on in my research. I actually didn't know everything I know today, only bits and pieces. Before I poured through hundreds and hundreds of court records, hours and hours of police interviews, I wanted to hear from her to see if this stuff was even true. I mean, if it's not, I didn't want to waste my time. I need to start digging in a little bit more and confirming some of the things that he said.
I'm going to be real honest. I'm happy to talk to you with whatever I can. One of my attorneys is in France right now for 2 weeks. You know, he'll need to be a part of that. There's a lot of other people. If you're going to go that route and this is what you're really going to do the podcast on, I mean, I understand that.
I don't know. I just want to know. Look, a lot of times when I talk to people, they tell me a lot of stuff, and it takes a lot of time to dig into the files and fact check all this stuff. I consider you a peer, right? Like we're both in the same world. And if people are making these kind of allegations, and some people you would understand this. Some people would use a podcaster to weaponize them to go after somebody else. And I'd never want to be that person, right? So and you never want to be that person either, right?
Right.
So you want to do your due diligence, and I'll do my due diligence, but I just want to know, is this guy for real? Like, is he full of shit? Or, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I'm asking you all these questions.
So I'm legally I'm bound to a judgment that says that I can't speak negatively about him.
We're talking about Anthony Christopher, LaDonna's former boss, who sued her and won $3.5 million in damages as part of a ruling that also imposed a permanent injunction against LaDonna Humphrey, which prevents her from sending any spoof messages or communication on Anthony Christopher or Lene Heinz.
But what I'd like to point out to you is that this is a really hairy case, and this is a man that sued me for slander and libel and a lot of other things. And he's using the fact that I am bound to this gag order myself. So he's just doing everything that he can. That's his right. He's going to do what he's going to do. But there's a lot to this case. And just because somebody tells you that it was one way doesn't necessarily mean that's the way that it was. So
that's why I reached out to you right away. I was dying to ask LaDonna about Fetish Master. Remember, Fetish Master was believed to be the death fetish director who filmed Alicia Lockhart naked on that morgue slab, wearing nothing but a Mickey Mouse watch. Almost a decade after Alicia took part in that video shoot, LaDonna and Alicia started a podcast and wrote a book about her experiences. They even investigated the death fetish community. It was around this time that the director allegedly messaged Alicia under the screen name Fetish Master and begins harassing and threatening her. Come to find out, one day after sharing her screen, LaDonna Humphrey was logged in as Fetish Master. Now, we all heard the series of voice memos from episode 1 of LaDonna trying to explain away the fact that she was logged in under the very screen name that was tormenting Alicia. But I wonder, how does she explain it now that she's had time to think about it? One of the things that was really kind of a weird accusation, and I just wanted to make sure I talked to you about it, was your former co-host. She said that you were logged in as Fetish Master.
Yes.
And there was a screenshot. Yeah. And how do you explain that? Can you explain that to me?
I don't. I mean, we've recorded a podcast episode about it. We've worked with a technical expert, and I was logged in under my username and then took some screenshots and didn't know. And then, yes, all that she says happened. I can't explain it technically, how it happened. Do I believe that something happened on the back end when I was logged in because they flagged my IP address? I do. Just like, she said that her modem and her phone and all of her things were hacked. She claims that happened by all the fetishers. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. All I know on my end is what happened. But we are going to release a podcast episode about that. It's coming.
But this next part is the single most enlightening soundbite with my interview with LaDonna. It's the one that stuck with me the longest.
I would be really suspect about what anything Alicia Lockhart said. You do understand that she accused a man of sexually assaulting her over a movie that she was paid to do. There's a lot of things that we found out about Alicia after the fact and that she was getting confronted with that led to where we're at with her today. I mean, I am going to be taking legal action against Alicia, so I got to find out from my attorney what I can say. But yeah, there's a whole lot there. A whole lot there.
She basically told me to dismiss Alicia's claims. Why? because Alicia lied about getting sexually assaulted during her death fetish video shoot. LaDonna's strategy so far is, don't look at me, instead look at all these bad people and what they're doing. And who accuses someone of lying about a sexual assault without having any proof?
But you're saying that she wasn't sexually assaulted? Is that what you're saying?
No, I wasn't there. All I know is that she has done several podcasts. Some of those podcasts have come down where she says that this man was her rapist. There's no rape on that video.
So you've seen the video? You've seen the...
Everybody has seen the video, I think.
You're saying that you watched the video and that video doesn't have rape, but that doesn't mean that she wasn't raped, or...
Yeah, I never want to accuse. I wasn't there, right? And I wasn't there, but I also know that this man wasn't charged with anything, and I also know that Alicia has at one point had some preferences in the death fetish world. Like, we got some screenshots of she was calling herself a candy-coated death enthusiast. Some Facebook posts wanting to pretend that she was dead laying in a coffin. So it's really kind of hard to know with her.
After our call, LaDonna sent me screenshots of Alicia that suggest she's into death fantasies. It's true. In one social media post, Alicia Lockhart writes about celebrating her 30th birthday with a living funeral. She wants to wear a fancy dress and lay in an open casket. She wants to get her makeup done and hear what people would have to say at her funeral. Then the post says that she would come back to life and they can all dance together. To me, this seems like Alicia is kind of into the macabre. She obviously has a dark sense of humor. So what? She didn't actually do this. She just was wondering what it would be like. Nothing about Alicia's social media posts suggests that she wanted to act dead so that people would have sex with her. I think there's a big difference, don't you? After my call with LaDonna, she posted screenshots of Alicia's death fetish video on the Deep Dark Secrets Twitter account, doubling down on her skepticism that Alicia was sexually assaulted. That post has since been taken down.
These posts were back from 2013 that she was making. So it's really just hard to know with her what's real and what's not real.
When Alicia confronted LaDonna about the Fetish Master account, LaDonna denied it over and over again. She came up with all kinds of excuses. I asked LaDonna about this.
Does it seem a little bit like a cop-out, though, the whole Fetish Master screenshot? Like, oh, somebody hacked into my account. I mean, that seems weird, right? Like a weird explanation, like that somebody hacked into your account.
Not after what we experienced. I think if you read our book, Strangled, there was a lot of really weird things going on with both of us. She talks openly about her modem getting hacked and supposedly fetishers coming to the Virgin Islands. There was a lot of stuff that's happening. I mean, a lot of really weird stuff. So no, in my mind, it's not. It's not strange.
After the break, we're going to get LaDonna's take on all the harassment accusations.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Recently, LaDonna Humphrey took down all the episodes of the Deep Dark Secret podcast featuring her former co-host, Alicia Lockhart. She also removed the book she co-wrote with Alicia titled Strangled from Amazon. I have a copy of both the book and all the podcast episodes, but it made me wonder, why? Why take it down?
So your first season of your podcast is no longer available, right?
That's right.
Why is that? Why did you take it down?
Because we don't want any connection to Alicia Lockhart.
Because you feel like she's somebody that's going after you? Is that?
No, because we don't feel like she was honest. We feel like, our book is no longer pulled from circulation. You probably ought to talk to the publisher about that because she was dishonest with him. And so we do not feel like...
So there's like factual things wrong with that book? Is that what you're saying?
Not on my end, but he's concerned that there's factual things wrong with what she has told him because he caught her in a lie. But you should probably reach out to him.
Yeah, definitely. What's the name of the publisher?
Genius Book Publishing.
Oh, Genius Book. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that.
So I reached out to Stephen Booth, the publisher of Genius Books, for an interview. We were trading calendar openings back and forth, but we just couldn't make it happen. Finally, Stephen Booth gave up and sent me his response via text message. I'll read it to you. Okay, let's do it this way. First, Alicia Lockhart lies about stuff that can be verified. What else is she lying about? Second, Alicia, Anthony Rocco, that's Anthony Christopher, by the way, and others have an agenda to make LaDonna look bad. Anthony Rocco deals in allegations and implications, whereas LaDonna has facts. Anthony starts big, exciting projects and winds up with legal trouble and is accused of stealing money. LaDonna starts with big, exciting projects and they are successful without controversy. Finally, if LaDonna was, for example, an arsonist, why hasn't she been investigated, arrested, or prosecuted? One conclusion is that she has an in with the local cops, which implies that the cops are corrupt. Are you prepared to put your reputation on the line to make Anthony Rocco's case for him? Because you better have the facts straight. That's what I have to say. I think this concludes our interview." Unquote. I wrote back and I said, "Thank you. If you have any specifics on Alicia, send it over. Can you tell me why the book was dropped? Those are my only questions." Stephen Booth wrote back and said, "It's the same question. She accused LaDonna of withholding Alicia's royalties. I worked with LaDonna and discovered that every penny was paid to Alicia. That's every penny earned for the book. LaDonna doesn't receive a royalty for that book, and I will be happy to provide you with the evidence of that. The book was dropped because Alicia wouldn't show proof that she hadn't been paid. She refused. I told her that I would need to pull the book to decrease my legal exposure if it turned out that other factual misrepresentations were in the book. It turns out that there were other things that were unverifiable in her statements, like her sexual assault at the hands of that porn producer. Can't be verified. I stand by pulling the book. Give me 20 minutes to compile the evidence I have. I do not have direct knowledge of the sexual assault allegations, so take that for what it's worth. I'm not in the business of verifying every statement from my authors. I expect and demand that they be truthful. Alicia is not." Unquote. By the way, I've seen the spreadsheets and the screenshots for the payments of Alicia's book royalties. Essentially, Stephen Booth was having LaDonna act as a middleman. Instead of paying Alicia directly, he was sending the money to LaDonna, and LaDonna was in charge of dispersing the funds to Alicia, which happened very inconsistently. Some months she would get no payments, and then all of a sudden she would get multiple payments. But anyway, I don't see how a billing dispute equates to Alicia being dishonest in that book. So I asked him, I said, "Would you consider all of LaDonna's books nonfiction?" He wrote back, "LaDonna alone? Unquestionably." The reason why I asked Stephen Booth this question is because there's a post on Tumblr where LaDonna Humphrey refers to her books on Melissa Witt as a work of fiction. I found that to be odd.
You posted on Tumblr that your books were a work of fiction. I forget how you phrased it, but do you consider your books journalism or more inspired by real events?
I don't have a Tumblr account. Can you show that to me? Or
Really? All right, let me see. I don't know. It could be somebody else's account for all I know. Yeah, I'll forward this to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see it because I don't have a Tumblr account.
Interesting. I mean, there is a Tumblr page which you could check out for yourself. It's called LaDonnaHumphreyArkansas.tumblr.com, and the latest post as of this recording is titled, quote, "Let's Not Pretend," where she talks about the smear campaign against her life. Weird. Let's get back to my text message interview with Stephen Booth, the publisher of Genius Books. I asked him, "You mentioned verification of content in the books you publish. Can you describe your process for fact-checking?" Stephen Booth said, "Our authors are contractually obligated to tell the truth and show their sources where appropriate. I had two authors make deliberate factual misrepresentations in their books and lie about it when confronted with unequivocal proof. Alicia and a woman named Connie Price. Both books were pulled within hours of discovery of them lying to me. Yes, I do trust my authors to do their homework, and we do some fact-checking during editing, mainly to see if they get the obvious stuff right. If they can't get the basic stuff right, we question their ability to get important facts right. If something is spotted during editing, we delay the book until all the facts have been checked. We just had a book have that problem recently, a book about music. The book is still pending. So I said, well, what exactly did Alicia lie or falsify? I just want to make sure I understand because I keep hearing that Alicia lied, but I'm not sure what she lied about. Stephen Booth said, well, candidly, I don't care. I told you. She lied about something verifiable, the royalties. That puts her ability to be truthful under the microscope. As I said before, she made allegations against a porn producer of sexual assault, which he categorically denies. Do I know whether she was assaulted? No. Do I doubt her good word? Actually, yes. If she lies about stuff that can be verified, I have to question her relationship with the truth. I don't have the resources to validate everything she says. As I mentioned before, she was wrong, she was called out, and she doubled down. I can't trust her to tell the truth now. I don't really care what in the book might be a lie. Until further notice, all of it was a lie. That's my position here. I said, gotcha, thanks. His last message to me was, you drank the Kool-Aid. I'm very disappointed. I hope it was worth it. So let's get back to my conversation with LaDonna. There's a portion of my interview with LaDonna Humphrey that I'm just going to skip over, like accusations that she's been involved in multiple arsons. Honestly, I have nothing to back that up. There are other wild accusations, things that I heard that I just can't verify. And I just wanted to get her take on it.
I'm not trying to sound rude. I'm just trying to wrap my head around some of this stuff.
Yeah. No, I think the common thread from the things that I was hearing was that people would have some sort of either disagreement with you or something happened, and then all of a sudden they would get harassing messages from anonymous callers, anonymous emails. And that seemed to be the common thread. And that's why I was just like, I need to talk to her about this because why are all these people saying the same thing?
Well, who are all these people?
Well, like Anthony, Alicia, all these people that I haven't talked to every single one of them, but all these people that they're describing are kind of saying the same story.
Well, I'd like to see the evidence of that. And again, there's lots of people you probably need to reach out to in regard to Alicia and Anthony. You could probably get the same amount of people that had things to say about them. I'm not real concerned about Alicia. I'm concerned that Anthony's making some of these things, some of these allegations. That's pretty bold stuff right there. That's lawsuit worthy right there.
Why do you think all these people are saying all these things? It's my biggest question. That's the thing that keeps lingering in my head. That's why I reached out to you. Why do all these people say all these things about you?
I mean, you have real scenarios with people, a little bitty armies being built by someone. So, and I've known that. I mean, I knew that he was doing this. I didn't know some of the allegations. It's a little bit shocking, but I mean, there isn't anything I can do about it. I mean, there will be legally eventually, but right now there's not a whole lot I can do about it.
And I mean, it's tough for you because you are kind of this public figure. You have a podcast, you have all these things going for you, and there's a lot at stake here with all these allegations, right?
What's at stake here with the allegations? Because people make allegations all the time. I mean...
No, I don't know.
I'm being accused of arson. I mean, some of this is a little bit much. I mean, there's going to definitely be some legal repercussions from that. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, what can I do? I can't. People can say what they want to say. I personally can't say anything about Anthony Christopher. The other people, I would think that you just probably need to dig and talk to other people. There's lots there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being candid about this. I'm sure this is not the stuff that you want to talk about. I personally was interested in the Melissa Witt case, and I still am. I think that nobody knows the case like you do. And then all this other stuff started happening. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that I talked to you about it early, so that you were aware of the allegations that were being made,
Okay.
But I don't know what I plan to do with this yet,
I mean, you asked to meet with me under the guise to talk to me about the Melissa Witt case, and that's not what you did. So I have a little bit of an issue with that. But I'm not mad. I'm just like,
you asked me if I wanted to talk about the Melissa Witt case, and I said, yeah, I do.
Okay.
I just ask you about it.
Maybe I just made that assumption then. But I do think that there's a lot of other people you need to talk to. I mean,
please, actually point them my way.
Do objective, fair journalism?
You cut out a little bit, but I heard objective, fair journalism.
I said, isn't that your job?
I don't ever want to report something that is false, only evidence-based stuff. So, yeah, for sure. There are some allegations, like the arson stuff makes me very uncomfortable, because I don't care how many times that somebody makes allegations, unless there's like real evidence to point to that makes me uncomfortable as a journalist.
It is my job. By the way, sorry about the feedback. I think LaDonna had me on speaker and was possibly recording our conversation, which is totally fine. LaDonna and I ended our call by me agreeing to call some of her supporters, which I did. Let me play you some of those conversations. First, we're going to start with Amy Smith. Amy Smith is not only LaDonna's co-host, but she's also the co-founder of All the Lost Girls, a nonprofit organization. And she also helps LaDonna host the true crime festival called True Crime Fest.
So tell me, what are your feelings? Because you have this group of people, they're all random. They have nothing in common other than they claim that LaDonna is harassing them.
Correct. And I've known LaDonna 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched her pour her heart out to the community. I've seen her do stupid things. I mean, we all do dumb things. But as far as these allegations that these people are doing, it looks random. But if you'll look real closely, they all have a connection. And I'm real big on people's character and motive. And they all have one person that has reached out and connected with people who don't like LaDonna. And LaDonna, I mean, she's strong-willed. She is feisty. She is a worker. In my opinion, she's a genius because she comes up with the most brilliant ideas. So has she stepped on some people's toes over the 25 years that I've known her? Probably so. She's very type A, but she gets stuff done. And at the end of the day, her heart is good. I mean, if you followed her around for a week, first, you'd be exhausted. And second, you would have a completely different opinion of her than what you've been given.
Here's Jana Hines, who you already heard from in this episode. During my conversation with Jana, I was surprised to learn that she, too, has been a victim of harassment.
I received these texts, threatening texts, like very sexual texts. And I can't prove they were from him. I can't prove they were from anyone. But I will tell you, I would have lunches with LaDonna and another friend, and those texts would come through as she was sitting there with me.
Were they frequent? Like, how frequent were they?
They used to be, years ago, they used to be several times a week, just nonstop rant. And I have turned those into the state. State has them. And they were horrible. As the years have gone on, they've slowed down a bit, but some are definitely.
So you're saying they're still happening now? Like even
I probably haven't had one in a few months, but I'll say every 3 or 4 months I'll get something, just a random something. No, it's destroying us.
And you're not going to believe this, but even David McClam, LaDonna's most vocal supporter, has experienced harassment. You mentioned in, I believe, episode 12 or something like that of your podcast with LaDonna that you yourself have received harassing messages. Is that true?
That is true. I still have them all documented.
And what was the nature of those messages?
They were from a transgendered individual named Jessica Brown, which if you listen to any of the season 1 episode of These Are Secrets, she was the biggest catalyst, ran several different death fetish sites.
Jessica Brown is a real person. I've spoken to her, and I've also listened to the audio messages that she sent David. None of them seem threatening to me. Jessica Brown deserves her own bonus episode, by the way. I want to make sure that we do her story justice. But if it is true that David is receiving harassing messages from Jessica, or anyone else for that matter, I haven't seen it. Jessica, if you're listening, I'd love to hear your take on David's claims. Did you ever receive any harassing messages prior to knowing LaDonna Humphrey?
No. But all the people that started coming out of the woodwork, Jessica Brown, Horror Man, started contacting me, several other strange people. And I know what you're getting at, so I'll tell you this right now. Several of those times that this was happening in real time, I was speaking to LaDonna at the same time. So no, it's not her.
But seriously, y'all. David McClam says that he's getting harassing messages. So is Janet Hines. Even LaDonna's friends aren't safe from harassment. Thank you. I know you got to run. If you want to follow up on this, just shoot me a message. I'm available tomorrow if you want to talk or whenever, but shoot me whoever you think I should talk to refute some of these claims. Sure. I'm happy to talk to whoever you send my way, okay?
Yeah, I need to know how deep you want to go.
I think we're going to go pretty deep, actually. You know, online, on social media, LaDonna and her surrogates have threatened lawsuits because of this series. They've threatened lawsuits directed at me and some of the accusers. And one day, precisely on June 11th, that promise came to fruition. I got a series of 3 letters from LaDonna's attorney, Tom Stockman. The first letter was on behalf of David McClam, her co-host. He sent me a cease and desist letter for copyright infringement. He says that I unlawfully used clips from his podcast, Extinguished. My attorney clapped back and told him that that's fair use. The second cease and desist letter came on behalf of LaDonna Humphrey, claiming that LaDonna Humphrey has several causes of action against me, including disparagement, slander, right of publicity, and interference with business expectancy. The third letter that came from her attorney, Tom Stockman, said that if I have any questions pertaining to the Oasis of Northwest Arkansas nonprofit that LaDonna runs, to direct those questions at him. My attorney responded and said, "Your claims and allegations are entirely baseless and without any merit whatsoever. Mr. Leyva stands by his right to tell the story and will defend any action vigorously." My attorney also pointed out that with respect to the Oasis of Northwest Arkansas nonprofit, that it would be a conflict of interest for LaDonna's attorney to represent both her and the organization. However, we repeated our request for the 990T form, which is basically a business income tax return that should be publicly posted on her website. I've repeatedly asked LaDonna for these forms, and she has yet to turn those over. As you can tell, those letters are not going to slow me down. I stand by the reporting that I'm doing. I have the documents to back it up. It's LaDonna's job to prove that the documents I have and that the witness testimonies that I'm receiving are false. Until then, we're going to continue this podcast series. Like I mentioned earlier, I will read to you LaDonna's emails on a future Patreon episode. The next episode is going to be available right away on Patreon and Pretend Plus. And we got lots more coming. You know, there's one voice that's been missing throughout this whole thing ever since these podcast episodes launched, and that is of LaDonna Humphrey. For the most part, she's been pretty quiet and has used her surrogates to go after the people who are accusing her of harassment. There have been a couple slip-ups. For example, LaDonna went on her website and posted a long blog post about her victims. and she listed each and every single one of her accusers and all the dirt that she could find on them. Everything from felony records to arrest records. She even alluded that she had dirt on me. That post quickly came down. But for the most part, like I said, she's been quiet herself. But there have been some other activities that make me believe that LaDonna is using pseudonyms to go after her victims. For example, when part 4 of my series came out, that's the one about John Allen and the arson investigation, all of a sudden, this tabloid website that posts mugshots and other garbage posted an article about John Allen and his arson investigation the very same week that my episode dropped. Why would this tabloid website post an article about John Allen and an arson investigation that took place in a different part of Arkansas so many years ago? The timing is impeccable. So while LaDonna is not publicly going after these accusers herself, in my opinion, it's pretty clear that she's using her friends and sock puppet accounts to go after them. You know, as of the recording of this episode, David McClam has started a new podcast, all devoted to me, which is quite flattering. I've never had that happen before. And he's gonna, he keeps saying he's gonna bring the proof. He's gonna bring the proof. He's gonna bring the proof. I've heard it multiple times. I'm kind of waiting, So while David McClam was rambling on about the truth is coming, he also snuck in this little tidbit from the response that my attorney sent their lawyer. My attorney said, "My client declines your demand to take down any of his podcast posts or advertisements which include the client's materials or which refer to her by inference. However, if Ms. Humphrey believes that she has not been accurately portrayed, my client invites her to respond via another audio interview." So, in other words, I was extending LaDonna Humphrey a do-over. She really feels like this was an ambush. Let's do it again. Let's have another interview. So, David McClam, in his new podcast, devoted to me, he said, "LaDonna will meet with you. But she will not meet unless you are in Arkansas, sitting in front of her attorney in his office. I will be there and Amy Smith will be there. This way there is no type of drama over what was said and what questions you had. You can't cut things in and out the way you want to because everybody in that room will be recording everything." I'm like, hey, that sounds like a plan. So LaDonna, if you're listening to this, I'm all in. Name the time and place, and I will be there. You know how to reach me. All right, that's it for today. Talk to you guys next week.
Creative Babble.